They say some moments stay with you forever. Not because they made headlines. Not because anyone else noticed. But because you did. Because the second it happened, something inside you shifted. And nothing has felt the same since. I remember the sound of the ceiling fan that night. It was spinning so slow, like it was tired of watching me fall apart. The room was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like it's screaming at you. My husband had just gone to bed. He didn't kiss me goodnight, didn't ask how my day was. He just disappeared down the hall like he always did, like I wasn't even there. And maybe that's the part that hurts the most. Not what I did, but what I was becoming invisible. I didn't set out to ruin anything. I didn't wake up wanting to break my own heart. But loneliness? It has a voice. A soft one. One that whispers to you when no one else is listening. 2 years have passed since that night. Since I crossed a line I swore I never would. And yet, I still feel it. The heat. The guilt. The ache. Like a bruise under my skin that never got a chance to heal. You ever do something you can't take back? Not because you were evil, but because you were empty? This isn't a story about blame. It's not a story about lust, either. It's about that space between needing to be touched and needing to be seen. It's about silence, how it slowly wraps around a marriage and chokes the love right out of it. I wish I could tell you this has a clean ending, but I'm not here to give you peace. I'm here to tell you the truth. Because someone, somewhere, might need to hear it, might be living it, might be one unanswered text away from doing something they'll never be able to erase. So, before we go any further, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. Not for content, not for gossip, but for truth. Because some stories, they don't ask to be told. They beg to be confessed. Stay with me. I'm about to take you into the moment everything changed. And I promise, you won't believe what I did next. I'm 38, and some days, I feel like I've lived twice that. I didn't always feel this way. There was a time when I laughed without thinking, when my home felt warm, when my husband used to look at me like I was the only thing in the room. Now, he barely notices when I walk in, always at work, or buried in his phone. If he does speak, it's about bills, or errands, or whether the car needs servicing. We used to dance in the kitchen. Now, I can't even remember the last time we really touched. He's not cruel, just absent. Like the lights on, but no one's home. And I've spent too long pretending I didn't notice. We have 2 kids. Our daughter just moved out for college. Quiet girl. Beautiful heart. But closed off. She tells me things like she's filling out a form, just the essentials. Our son's older. Polite. Helpful. Always shows up when asked, but never really here. He moved back in for a bit after school. The kind of presence that fills a room without saying a word. And me? I spend most days moving from one quiet room to the next, folding laundry, refilling the fridge, trying not to hear how loud the silence is. Our house is spotless. Every dish in place. Every blanket folded. But it feels like a museum. Clean, but cold. The wine glasses in the cabinet haven't been touched in months. The bed? Always made. Rarely used. And me? I just kept pretending. Pretending I wasn't hungry for something more. Pretending the ache inside me wasn't getting louder. I wasn't looking for trouble. I didn't want chaos. I just wanted to feel like someone still saw me. Still chose me. I thought I was managing it. Until the night came that proved I wasn't. And everything that felt stable cracked open. It didn't happen all at once. But the first shift? That came on a quiet Sunday. When someone walked through our front door and didn't look through me, but at me. That's when it started. Not the affair. The unraveling. And I think, deep down, part of me let it happen. It was just a Sunday. One of those lazy, cloudless days where everything feels harmless. The grill was out. Plates were stacked on the counter. The smell of roasted corn and barbecue sauce filled the air. It was supposed to be a family thing. And then my son walked in. With someone new. "Hey, Mom. This is Daniel." He said it like it was nothing. But it wasn't. Daniel smiled. That kind of smile that lingers a second too long. Confident, but not arrogant. Warm, but unreadable. And something about him, knocked the air out of my lungs. He reached for my hand. Firm grip. Eyes steady. Too steady. Most people look away after a second. Daniel didn't. I told myself not to read into it. I was tired. That's all. Tired people see things that aren't there. I went back to setting the table. He followed me into the kitchen. "You make all this yourself?" he asked. I nodded. He smiled again. "Smells better than any place we've eaten at school." It was nothing. Just a compliment. But it landed like a warm hand on cold skin. I hadn't heard something like that in God, I couldn't even remember. And then he said, "You must have been beautiful when you were younger." He laughed a little. "Still are." He said it playfully, like a joke. But he didn't look away. Not when he said it. Not after. I felt my face heat up. I laughed too. At what? I don't even know. Because all I could feel was that someone was looking at me again. I laughed at something I didn't even hear. Because he was watching. We ate outside. Laughter. Music. Conversation. But all I could feel was the space between glances. The way his eyes found mine when no one else was looking. And right beside me, my husband. Scrolling through his phone. Answering work emails. Asking if we had any more ketchup. Not once did he touch me. Not once did he lean in to ask how I was doing. Daniel noticed things. Little things. He passed me a napkin before I asked. Poured my drink before I reached. And I felt it. This soft pull. Like standing at the edge of something you know you shouldn't want to fall into, but you lean forward anyway. If I had said something then, if I had pulled back, changed the subject, gone inside, maybe none of this would have happened. Maybe that moment would have stayed a moment. Just a flicker. Just a harmless spark. But I didn't. I stayed. I let the warmth wash over me. Like it was the first sunlight I'd seen in years. And even as I smiled at my husband, even as I laughed with my son, part of me knew something had just started. And it wouldn't be easy to stop. After that Sunday, something shifted in me. It was subtle. Not loud or dramatic. Just different. I started checking the window more often. Not because I was waiting for a package, but because I was wondering if Daniel might drop by again. I told myself it was harmless. That I was just being polite. That it was nice to have company. But every time the doorbell rang, every time I heard footsteps near the porch, my heart skipped. And I hated how much I liked that feeling. He came over the next weekend. Nothing special, just a movie night with my son. But I made sure the house looked nicer. Put on a blouse I hadn't worn in months. Added a little color to my cheeks. For what? I told myself it was for me. That I just wanted to feel good. But deep down, I knew who I was hoping would notice. I started fantasizing. Not about him touching me, not at first. But about him looking at me. Choosing to sit next to me. Asking me questions no one else bothered to ask anymore. It became this small, secret world inside my head. And I lived there more often than I wanted to admit. I wasn't doing anything wrong. That's what I kept telling myself. I wasn't crossing any lines. I was just enjoying the attention. That's not a crime, right? After years of being invisible? After nights of cold dinners and colder silences? But then came the voice in my head. Sharper. Stricter. You're a mother. You're a wife. What are you doing? Get it together. And then another voice, softer, sadder. But when was the last time someone looked at you like that? When was the last time you felt wanted? I hated that I didn't have an answer. I hated that I kept thinking about him. When I folded laundry, I pictured his smile. When I cooked dinner, I wondered if he'd like the meal. When I lay beside my husband at night, I stared at the ceiling and imagined what it would feel like to be seen again. I prayed it would stop, that I'd snap out of it, that it was just a passing thing. But it wasn't. It was growing. Quietly. Like ivy in the cracks of something already crumbling. And with every visit, every glance, every casual thank you from Daniel, that small fire inside me burned hotter. Not because I wanted to burn everything down, but because I was cold. So cold. And part of me just wanted to feel warm again. It didn't become something overnight. It started small. Little moments that seemed innocent if you weren't paying attention. Daniel started coming around more often. Study nights with my son turned into movie nights with the whole family. He blended in so easily, charming, polite, always helpful. He'd clear the dishes before anyone asked. Laugh at my husband's dry jokes like they were clever. And every time he looked at me, it was like I was the only person in the room. No one noticed. Or maybe they did, and no one said anything. But I noticed. I felt it. He made me feel like a person again. Not a role. Not a routine. A woman. I started finding excuses to stay downstairs a little longer after dinner. Wiping the counters more slowly. Fixing a snack I didn't need. Just hoping he'd say something. Just wanting a reason to exist. And then there was that night. Everyone else had gone to bed. The house was still. That kind of deep quiet that only shows up after midnight. I went down to the kitchen for some water. No lights were on, just the soft hum of the fridge. And there he was. Daniel, leaning against the counter. No phone, no drink. Just there. He didn't look surprised to see me. He didn't move. He just said, "You can't sleep either?" I shook my head. He looked at me. Really looked. And then he said it. "You deserve to be happy, you know." My breath caught. Not because of what he said, but because of how gently he said it. Like he meant it. Like he knew. I smiled. I didn't say a word. Didn't need to. The silence between us said enough. And I walked away. Back up the stairs. Back into bed next to a man who didn't even stir when I slid under the covers. But I didn't sleep that night. My body was still. But my mind, my heart, they were on fire. I replayed it over and over. The look in his eyes. The softness in his voice. The way he said happy like it was something I deserved but had forgotten how to want. I told myself it was just a moment. That it didn't mean anything. That I was still in control. Still good. Still safe. But I wasn't. Not really. Because the next time, I didn't walk away. It was raining that night. Not a soft drizzle, but the kind of steady, endless rain that makes the world feel slower, quieter, lonelier. Everyone was out. My husband had a work event. My son had driven back to campus for the weekend. I was alone. Or I thought I was. Then came the knock. Soft. 2 taps. I opened the door and there he was. Daniel. Soaked through his hoodie, holding a book I'd lent him weeks ago. "I figured I'd drop this off before I forgot," he said. But the way he looked at me, that wasn't someone just returning a book. That was someone hoping I'd invite him in. And I did. Because I didn't want to be alone. Because I didn't trust myself to say no anymore. Because some part of me deep, buried, aching, wanted him there. We stood in the kitchen. Rain tapping against the windows. No lights, just the soft glow from the stove clock. I poured wine. 1 glass. Then another. Then 3. And somewhere between sip and silence, he said it. "Sometimes I think about you." I didn't know what to say. My heart dropped. And I heard myself whisper, "You shouldn't say that." He took a step closer. Slow. Measured. "Maybe," he said. "But you're still listening." I should have stopped it. Should have turned away. Should have reminded him and myself of the line that shouldn't be crossed. But I didn't. I just stood there. Frozen in a moment I knew would ruin something. And I let it happen. The moment wasn't loud. There was no rush of passion. No dramatic music swelling in the background. Just 2 people, starving in silence, finally tasting something forbidden. And as it happened, as he touched me, as I leaned in, as we crossed that line, I felt like I was floating outside my body, watching a stranger who looked like me, moved like me, but wasn't me. And I hated her. I hated the way she wanted to be wanted. I hated the way she trembled when he whispered her name. I hated how easy it was, how natural it felt, how desperate she had become for this moment. But I didn't stop her. I let her live. I let her take what she thought she needed, even if it shattered everything she used to be. And when it was over, the rain kept falling. The house was still, and all I could hear was my own breath. And the truth. Loud, unforgiving. I had done the one thing I swore I never would, and nothing would ever feel the same again. The next morning, the house was so quiet it almost felt like it knew. The rain had stopped, but everything felt soaked. Heavy, like the air itself was thick with what we'd done. Daniel left early, didn't say much, just a small nod at the door. No smile, no goodbye, and then he was gone. I stood in the doorway long after he left, listening to nothing, trying to breathe like everything was normal, trying to move like the floor hadn't shifted beneath me. A few hours later, my husband walked into the kitchen, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. Barely looked up. He asked, "Did Daniel say goodbye?" Just like that. Flat. No tone, no weight. And I didn't know what it meant. Was he suspicious? Was it just small talk? Or had he felt something I hadn't noticed? I told him yes. I said it with a smile. A too bright, too practiced smile that I hoped would hide everything underneath. From that moment on, I became someone else. I cooked more, cleaned more, laughed too loudly at his jokes, asked questions I never used to ask. I baked his favorite pie the next day, left his favorite candy on the nightstand, rubbed his shoulders while he watched TV. Anything to distract him, to distract me. I thought if I smiled enough, maybe I'd wash the truth off me. Maybe I could bury what happened beneath perfect dinners and clean sheets. But no matter how much I scrubbed, the guilt stayed under my nails. No matter how much I smiled, my reflection still looked like a stranger. And Daniel didn't come back. Not that day, not the next week, not the week after that. He stopped calling, stopped texting. And with every day that passed, the silence between us grew louder. I told myself it was for the best. That distance would help me forget. That maybe he regretted it too. But there were nights when I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he missed me, or if he'd already moved on. I hated myself for wondering, but I couldn't stop, because even in his absence, he was still there. In the kitchen, in the songs on the radio, in the way my heart still jumped when my phone buzzed. And that was the cruelest part. He left, but the damage didn't. I started writing, not to remember, but to release. Pages and pages. Spilled ink. Tangled thoughts. Rage. Longing. Guilt. Some nights, I wrote until my hand cramped. Until the words stopped making sense. I didn't hold back. I couldn't. Because there was nowhere else to put it. The ache. The shame. The way I missed someone I had no right to miss. I wrote about Daniel. About how he made me feel not like a wife, not like a mother, but like a woman again. Like I mattered. I wrote about my husband. How I used to love him so deeply it scared me. How I still wanted to, but didn't know how to reach him anymore. I wrote about myself. This version of me I didn't recognize, this woman who crossed a line and then spent every moment afterward trying to uncross it in her mind. I imagined telling him, my husband, laying it all out, confessing, owning it, taking the weight and putting it at his feet. But what would it fix? Would it undo the night? Would it make me whole again? Or would it just ruin what little we had left? There was this one question that haunted me more than any other. Was I unhappy or just weak? Because I couldn't tell anymore. Was I starving for love, or just chasing escape? Was I trying to feel seen, or just trying not to feel empty? I read those words back to myself one night, scrawled in my journal like a confession I was too afraid to say out loud. And the silence in the room answered nothing. Weeks later, I saw him. Daniel. I was out grabbing groceries. Just a normal day. Hair tied back. Face bare. Cart half full. And there he was. In the next aisle. Laughing. Holding hands with someone else. A woman I didn't recognize. Pretty. Young. Whole. He looked up. Right at me. And then, through me. Like I was no one. No nod. No smile. No flicker of recognition. Just gone. Like what we did never happened. Like I never happened. And in that moment, I felt it. The gut punch. The sting. The cold emptiness of being replaced. Or worse, forgotten. And for the first time, I understood. I truly understood. What it must have felt like for my husband. All those nights I turned my face away. All those mornings I moved around him like a ghost. All those moments I made him feel invisible while I was aching to be seen by someone else. And I broke. Right there. In the middle of a grocery store aisle. I broke quietly. Because I had become the thing I swore I'd never be. Someone's regret. Someone's lesson. Someone's mistake. Have you ever crossed a line, not because you were cruel, but because you were empty? Because something inside you went quiet so long ago you forgot what it sounded like to feel alive? Have you ever found yourself longing for something so simple, a glance, a touch, a single question that made you feel real again, and then hated yourself for wanting it so much? If you've ever felt that ache, the one you can't name, the one that sits behind your ribs like a ghost, talk to me. Not to judge, not to excuse, but because maybe you're not alone. And maybe if someone had said this to me sooner, I wouldn't be here telling this story like a wound that never scabbed over. Drop your truth in the comments. Whatever it is. Whatever it's cost. I'll read it. I'll carry it with you. And if this story stirred something in you, if it echoed a part of your heart you don't usually let anyone near, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. Not for drama. Not for content. But for truth. Because the next story might sound a little too familiar. Might be the thing you've never dared say aloud. And now, before I let you go, there's one more thing you should hear. Some mistakes don't end marriages. They end pieces of us we never get back. I still lie beside him. We still eat dinner together. We still share passwords, schedule doctor's appointments, talk about the weather. But every now and then, in the mirror or in the pause between sentences, I catch my own reflection and I remember what I became. Not a villain, not a victim, just a woman who was drowning quietly and reached for the wrong shore. If you're thinking about stepping outside what's sacred, ask yourself, will the warmth be worth the fire that follows? Because sometimes the heat feels like comfort. But when it dies down, you're left standing in the ashes of the person you used to be. We don't always cheat because we want more. Sometimes, we cheat because we feel like less. And the worst part? Is realizing you can never unknow what it felt like to be seen and still choose to disappear.